I don't work with editors, and again, this is not a rule at all. It's actually the other way around. It's a good idea that you're being told normally that it's good that you're not editing your own films, because it's another point of view, and editors are giving you another, view on your footage. But I just love it too much to give it out of my hands. And actually, the films, how I made them are very much based on editing. So I have to do this stuff myself. I never shoot and then edit. I love the fact that most of my films are edited during almost 2 years, because I'm also shooting. Genesis, that was shot Shenzhen was one of the last things we shot, All the rest were already in the editing room coming to life. So what does coming to life mean? So let's take the dogs in Seoul. You have a directing part there because, the customers of these very expensive cloned dogs are too rich that you can take them as protagonists, and you're too much depending on rich people which change their schedules, so no way. That's staged. Because when I did my research work, I had many times that not the rich people were coming to, to take their dogs. It's actually representatives from their company. So that's what I did. I did the casting, and the whole show with this giving over the dogs, with the waving at the end, it's all for me. But it's all done in the exact way I was witnessing when I did the research.
Древний человек сотни тысяч лет жил вместе с мамонтом.
For the Industrial Revolution with energy, it was the machine. For us, it's the cell. It's going to change everything.
The hunters search for tusks. Each one of them desperately hopes to find the white gold.
Кровоточащий мамонт.
World-famous molecular engineer and geneticist George Church. He wants to bring a woolly mammoth back to life, out of a petri dish.
Hopefully, mammoth.
Baby mammoth.
Oh la la, excellent. It's invaluable. God's word is still imperfect. But if we work together, we can make God perfect.
Некоторые старики особенно говорили, что даже землю копать нельзя.
Находить мамонта считалось это очень плохо.
Is that becoming an issue? The ethical considerations for something like that seems very sensitive.
Человеческая натура такая, что надо, больше. В будущем посмотрим, что получится, думает человек.
So this is a sequence now. I have it, and I have some problems with it. I watched it. I mean, it's probably, how much footage could that have been? 70 minutes, not more, because, I mean, that was it. I didn't direct what they are doing. It just happened, real time, with my little actors, and I only directed some close-up with the dogs. So I needed some nice close-ups of the dogs. So when all was finished in the room, again, this method, first you do the direct cinema style. And then I said, okay, before everybody leaves, that was wonderful. Can I please do some shots? And I discussed this before with Peter. We need some nice close-ups of the dogs. And for that, you have to do the dog psychologist. You have to get the dog's attention towards you, so they are not too... So I destroyed all the sound. I worked with the dogs, so they're nice, and we shot maybe 10-minute dog close-ups. So this is the footage I have. And then we filmed all the rest with the waving, everything, reality, like it would have happened for real customers. So I have 70 minutes of footage, and indeed, this is the sequence which will be the film. So I can edit it, and that's it, So I don't have to wait for the final editing and whatever. And of course, I'm eager to edit that. And even, producers might tell you, well, you need an editor because, another opinion. But I see this footage for the first time. I'm not always watching during the shoot on the monitor. That's very bad. And sometimes it's 70 minutes, and Peter is instructed anyway. So I watch it for the first time. So the ritual of watching footage for the first time is a holy ritual. Never, ever, I watch footage on a cheap, monitor somewhere in the hotel or in the camera. Never, ever, it's not happening. This is the unique chance of reacting like the audience. You have it only once. You are watching. And you still mean it. You still have feelings. Later on, you get, you know how it is when you get tired with the editing. So I never edit alone. I mean, I always have internships. I always train people when I'm editing. So I'm not sitting alone in front of the Avid, and I have a nice studio. It means light goes down. We watch now the footage. Ooh. And then I'm not even watching all of it. I might maybe just watch the beginning when they are waiting in the waiting hall, and you have this crazy American woman talking about her being so much in love, then trouble is more important than her own mother. So maybe this is the first part we just watch together, my assistant and me. And normally the assistant is supposed to do nothing than to take her own notes. Because I'm really an animal in these situations. Because, this is, wow. So I immediately have a feeling for what is the moment. Let's take just the waiting situation. And I already work on this maybe half a day. I didn't even watch the rest of the 60 minutes. Because the waiting situation of these two guys is the waiting situation of these two guys. That's supposed to be the beginning of the sequence, no? Maybe it's one day of editing. And at a certain moment, I ask, of course, always the assistant to put down her notes, So she's also making notes what for her was important moments, or for him. So immediately I begin to edit. And I edit for quite a long time until I begin to feel, wow, it looks like a fiction film now, in the sense I'm just in this room. There's two people waiting for something, and there's this incredible woman telling her love story with her beloved trouble dog she wants to clone. And so on. Then we go to the ritual, and we do the same with the ritual. So maybe after 1 week, the whole sequence is getting alive. Maybe it's 3-4 minutes long. Okay, it's time to invite some people. Already. Not for a film, but just for this sequence, to test how does it work. Because it's. And then the sequence stays there if it's good enough, if people react, if they're supposed to laugh, they have to laugh, all the test audience. It has to work. It has to work. It's a construction. And then I leave it. Maybe for months, because I'm not touching it, and I never put together a film. It's just this fragment. And months later, I begin to put all these these sequences together to a whole. That's basically the process. The way I work, I see only advantages in being also my own producer, but that's because my productions are special in the sense that it's not just, you know, shoots where you can actually make a lot of use with a production assistance. Like in fiction, you know, you need a whole company and you have to tell the police that you're shooting there and in the parking lots and blah, blah, blah. And for me, it's space or it's China or it's Afghanistan. And anyway, every shoot is special, so I better do it myself anyway. And then I have only Peter to pay the salary. So it's really not a lot of work. And of course, the big advantage is I have all the risk, like war photography, I told you. It's really my decision also to take it. But of course, I also have all the benefit. Like war photographer sold very well to 52 countries all over the world, only in TV. So I control my stuff. But on the other hand, I wouldn't recommend it so much to everybody at all. I mean, there's a lot of reason why you learn in film schools you should have a producer. You also should not edit your own films like I do. There's another conflict, you know. Because it might make a lot of sense that you actually have a good producer as a partner to help you to define what you're going to do. So, I mean, really, but if you feel that this production company or this producer is not really understanding or not really helpful, don't be too afraid. Now with the cameras, you know, I mean, maybe just shoot and go for it first and do it, you know. I mean, because, I mean, you know, since I'm my own boss, I never have the Excel sheet. Oh, now I have like 5 days of research that cost me that and that. I just go for it, you know. I have some money, I just do it. I go by instinct. I have more of an idea when I structured the movie. Like, you know, when I did the giant Buddhas, I know I will blow up the Buddha at minute 30. At the end of the first act. This is feelings I have, because before I want to give you a feeling of the Buddha still being alive, and then we blow up the Buddha. But no, the rest is really instinct, but that's different. I mean, this is also the role of the producers when you're working with, to kind of structure that. But it's tricky, you know. For example, it's an endless fight in the amount of weeks you get for editing. And it was like 3 times already in a jury judging the editing of documentaries. Like we gave the award to the editors, no? And I always ask the winners, how long did you edit? Do you think it was only 1 month or 2 months? It was always 1 year or even more. That's normal. No producer wants to hear that. That's expensive. So it's a fight. Go for it and fight, you know. I mean, editing time is crucial. Don't let them just force you to finish the editing and then later on they will tell, well, if we would have had more time. I mean, hello? Shouldn't happen. But or edit yourself on your small Avid on your laptop and you know, whatever. But try to go to the edge of this is now my limit and this, and that's the most important thing. This is the limit of my material and my story. You always have limitations. The key of success, being successful in documentaries, is a strange mix of being super, super sensitive and respectful and exact and really in love with the real and super arrogant. It's true. You need both. If you keep on just being fascinated by the real and by every aspect of your topic or your protagonist, you're lost. You don't have a narrative. You don't have it in your own life when you have problems and you're overwhelmed with these problems and a good friend is trying to tell you, hey, let me speak with you. I think your problem is this and this and this and this. No, it's much more complicated. A good narrative is this good friend shaking you and forcing you to get rid of these too much complications you make into hiding your own problems, the real ones. It has this cathartic power. It's a depiction of life. It shows us how life is because it's a reduction of too much complications and complexity. We need that. That's every narrative. That's every novel. It's, of course, you always think novel is like, whoa, meandering, you can do that and that and that. It's true for some, and maybe Fellini films are not the best example for reduction of complexity. But in a documentary, you need it. And I can talk a lot about my methods of bringing too much complicated things down to one narrative. That's how I create my films. If you do too much of that, you end up in the boring and even dangerous stereotype. We don't want that. If you don't do it, nobody wants to watch your film.
Are you still excited about filmmaking after all you've done?
Do I look bored? No, of course I am. I mean, I'm totally passionate about it. I feel it's a real privilege to be able to be curious my entire life. Of course, it's not always sugar, you know. I mean, when I'm producing my own films with all the success, I have to be more and more also in office. I cannot afford staff, not with Swiss salaries, so I'm going to the post office, you know. But of course I love it, and I also feel that documentaries are really important, more and more, because, you know, we are going away from a lot of principles like enlightenment. We have stupid ideas in the internet and fake news and conspiracy theories, and people believe all kind of shit, and then you have these politicians, and they address to the phobias again. Putin is not against gay men, but he knows his people, you know, in the villages, and he knows, you know, he's an elite guy. He gives a shit about somebody being gay, and if they are in love, that's okay for him. I'm totally convinced. But not in the villages, so he's feeding these fears, you know? Ooh. And more we're getting away from what made us actually so successful, because why are we not afraid anymore, at least in the elites, in the urban centers all over the world, whatever sexual orientation you have, because of documentaries a lot. I really believe that, because you encounter real human beings. You give a shit about, you know, their sexual, that's not important. They might be assholes, you know, that's a character, but it's really important to judge people based on their characters and not color of their skin or nationality and stuff. So per se, documentary filmmakers, we are doing important work against all kind of prejudices and stereotypes. We, you know, like if you are handicapped, still a lot of societies try to hide these kind of human beings with another concept, because you might, you know, you look different, you act different because of certain limitations, you know, that's it. And the rest of you has the whole entire universe of being beautiful or not beautiful, whatever, you know. And through documentaries, you learned about that. So, you know, one of my first films I ever watched I was 17, was a film on the topic of being handicapped and sexuality. You have sexual desires if you are handicapped, of course. These bodies look strange, how can, you know, aha. By filming it in a respectful way, you encounter a different universe of people with restrictions being in love and having sexual desires as everybody else. So documentaries are important more and more, and that's why they try to avoid them. So we are important, and we should fight for the freedom and the liberty to express ourselves through documentaries, and to approach whatever phenomenon we try to capture with our camera in an open-minded way without too many prejudices. I mean, you always have that because we cannot really be totally open-minded, but at least trying to understand. That's how I approach every human being in the world. Like, it's not, ooh, this guy is working for Nestle. So Nestle is exploiting the water, they are bad guys, and that must be a bad guy. It's not really interesting. Unless you want to do, a film on this topic, then it's okay. But I mean, I feel there's also a lot of dynamite in kind of approaching diverse people and people with different agendas with respect, and then you still find out what's real and what's fake and what is actually propaganda. And propaganda, of course, is not just a matter of governments, it's a very, very, very common tool in Western society with advertising and PR. It's myth, you know? A good advertising creates just a mythology, a myth. Has nothing to do, really, Swiss watch, So between myth and reality, there's an interesting gap, and that's also part of our work, to kind of explore that.